This is ABTV, Animal Bites Television. For animal lovers, by animal lovers.
So guys, I'm super excited here. I'm with my buddy here, Jose the American Alligator, and I'm at Brad's World, an amazing place that does crazy cool educational things. We have a load of amazing animals to show you guys, and we're certainly starting with Jose here. He's over 7 foot long and 145 pounds. He's about 15 years old. You can certainly see what a beautiful animal this guy is. And again, American alligators are kind of the puppy dog of the crocodile world. You certainly wouldn't want to do something like this around a saltwater croc or a Nile croc, that's for sure. But Jose here, he's one cool animal. God, it's gonna be an awesome day. My name is Brian Barczyk. I'm no zoologist, just a guy with a passion for animals. And that passion often takes me on animal adventures around the world. This week, I'll be at Brad's World out in Oregon, showing you some amazing animals. And later in the show, I'll show you some never-before-seen home video of Steve Irwin. You're watching Snake Bites. So guys, it's really cool to be in this pond with some red-eared sliders, but this little bugger right here actually has been nipping on my, this isn't a red-eared slider, but it's been nipping on my toe for the last 5 minutes. And I tell you what, these guys are just getting warmed up because it's spring here, and getting in here, they're looking at my white toes and they're thinking, this is an opportunity for a little bit of a snack. And I gotta tell you, it didn't feel really good. But the real gem that I wanna share with you guys is take a look at this. I actually highlighted this at the Oregon Reptile Show. This is Sunshine here, and she's a rescued red-eared slider. Now that's one beautiful animal, and this is about as large as a red-eared slider is gonna get. And you can tell that they're males and females by the length of their claws, believe it or not. Males are gonna have much longer claws, and females are gonna have these short ones. But Sunshine here is one gorgeous animal, and you can see how docile she is, right? Now these guys are obviously aquatic turtles and spend the majority of their time in the water, but they're gonna come out just like Sunshine was and hang out and soak up this beautiful sun. Now what's interesting about a lot of albinos, believe it or not, is their eyes are a little bit more sensitive, so the sun can sometimes be a problem, but Sunshine seems to be completely fine here. Take a look at these awesome guys here. It's just always cool to see a herd of African spur-thighed tortoises. Of course, these are commonly known as sulcata. Now, the thing that I really want to showcase here, and look at these guys just running over, you got to watch your hands a little bit, because if they think you're a little apple or a carrot, they may take a finger or not. But these guys are absolutely adorable. But why are there so many here? It's something that I always want to talk about. And the fact that these are all rescues. So these guys as little babies, when they hatch out like this, are so absolutely adorable. But the problem is that as they get bigger, like the size of these guys here, a lot of people don't want to keep them because they're a lot of work. They're a little dirty, and they certainly like to feed a whole lot. Just can't believe how cute they are. But unfortunately, they end up as rescues in places like this, which is awesome because in a place like Brad's World, these guys are getting taken care of. Here you go, buddy. You want something? Look at how cute that is. But unfortunately, there are just hundreds and hundreds of sulcatas that are being given away to rescues every single day. And that's really a problem. What you have to understand when it comes to tortoises is that these guys live a long time. These tortoises, believe it or not, can get up to 200 pounds. Oh, gotta watch those fingers for sure. And they can live up to 100 years. So this is a real commitment. So before you decide to get a tortoise like an African spur-thighed, you really have to understand the dedication to it. But I can tell you what, if you have a cool place like this to keep them, they are absolutely incredible animals. And again, sulcata tortoises are just little monsters. They actually are the third largest tortoise in the world. And again, a lot of these guys are maybe only 4 or 5 years old. Just think about that. They're gonna be around when my great-grandkids are still around. Look at that. These guys love to eat. And this is an absolute pleasure to be hanging out with these beauties. Every time I get a chance to mess with alligator snapping turtles, I always do. Look at this little guy here. He is just so determined to bite you. I tell you what, you don't want to be in front of that mouth either. They've got quite the bite power. But this guy's probably only a couple years old, and this one certainly is probably a good 20 or 30 years old. These guys can live well over 100 years, and even though this one seems like a beast, and trust me, It's pretty heavy. It's gonna get quite a bit larger, sometimes up to twice the size. And again, the thing that makes these guys so incredible is they're ambush hunters. They're gonna just sit there with that mouth open, and they're gonna have that little lure in there, and the fish are gonna come up, and they're just gonna chomp it away. And they have a pretty long neck, so you never wanna get too close, because trust me, they're gonna get them. But look at this guy here. He's biting himself because he wants me so bad. Again, you don't want to get too close to this sucker. But how cool, man. These are really like living dinosaurs. This thing is awesome. Take a look at this beauty here. Its name is Isaac, but it's actually probably a female. It's an Asian water monitor, endemic to Southeast Asia, and it's one of the largest monitor lizards in the world. You can certainly see how large this guy is, probably over 6 foot long. That's one big animal. And the thing that's amazing about water monitors is the fact that they're extremely intelligent animals. As you can see, Isaac is trying to figure me out just as much as I'm trying to figure her out, but she's absolutely puppy dog tame. And just take a look at that long tongue. Again, they're gonna use that tongue to scent and taste everything. They're so intelligent. And with monitor lizards, it's all about trust. If you ever get into a situation where they lose your trust, you're gonna be in big trouble. So one of the things I always tell people when working with the big monitors is never grab them or mishandle them, because if you do, trust me, you don't wanna have an animal this size that's gonna say, I don't trust you anymore. Whew, is she a beast? And I'm telling you what, she is heavy and she's got really strong claws. And she's just ripping into me now. Whoa, Isaac, that's enough. All right, I tap out. Oh, Isaac is an amazing animal. There you go, girl. Like so many of the animals here at Brad's World, they all have stories behind them. Many of them are actually rescues. This happens to be a yellow anaconda named Trigger, and its name came from the fact that it hits its food so hard it almost feels like you're pulling a trigger of a gun, which I think is pretty cool. Now, yellow anacondas are the smaller species of the anacondas, so this is about full grown for a male. A female's gonna get a little bit larger, but only about 8 or 9 foot. Of course, the green anacondas are the ones that get really large, 18 foot and the largest girth animal on the planet. But again, anacondas often get a bad rap for being nasty and mean animals. And as you can see here from my buddy Trigger, this thing is puppy dog tame and super cool. Now, interestingly enough, I bred yellow anacondas when I was about 18 or 19 years old. So they've always had a soft spot in my heart. One day, I hope that I can own a green anaconda and potentially breed those guys too. Yellow anacondas have such incredible beauty and certainly should never be looked at as monsters. I've told the story a million times. My very first snake was a Burmese python, just like Pandora here, but it certainly didn't look as cool as Pandora. It was just a normal Burmese python, and it really spurred a lifelong passion for the big snake. Sadly, we don't see very many Burmese around, of course, because of the Lasiac, but Pandora here is a really special animal. She's an albino granite, which is a double recessive mutation. Both albino and granite are recessive, but this black blotching is what makes Pandora so special. Of course, it's what we call paradoxing, and it's sometimes genetic and sometimes not. It's hard to say, but nevertheless, it makes her look absolutely gorgeous. And of course, she's just a little bit of a pup right now, maybe about 6 or 7 foot. Burmese pythons can get pretty large. As you guys have seen my girl Satan, they can get 18, 19 foot and this big around, a few hundred pounds. So Pandora certainly has a long way to go. And as you can see here, Pandora is just starting to shed. Some stuff is starting to peel off just from me handling her, so I'm not going to try to manhandle her too much. And basically the process there is a snake will go blue before it sheds, and then that milky secretion soaks into the skin and they look clear just like Pandora, and within a day or two they shed it off. So tonight, Pandora is going to look pretty fresh in the morning. She's a gorgeous snake. For Brad, this plot of land over 10 acres is really about his personal sandbox in a way. When he bought it, it was basically just hay fields and nothing here. And then when he came in, he wanted to build ecosystems, kind of like this pond right here. So he dug these ponds out, and over time, as they filled up with water, more and more wildlife would come in. Of course, he would grow trees and let the grass grow out, and more, going from a relatively barren land that you might see a snake here and there, all of a sudden there started to be all kinds of great wildlife around. All kinds of things like gopher snakes and rattlesnakes and garter snakes, and even we saw some deer earlier on. It's really become a great refuge of wildlife, and it just goes to show you that with a little care and time and the ability to create ecosystems that animals can actually thrive in, land like this can go from relatively hardly any animals over a decade period to be full of wildlife. What's really cool about Brad's property is everywhere you go, there's basically a lot of thought that has went into it. This happens to be kind of a little bit of a drainage creek right here. And before, this would dry up after 3 or 4 months during the summer. And of course, with the series of ponds that this basically keeps completely full of water, once this dried up, those ponds would actually get dried as well. And of course, all that wildlife would have nowhere to go as a refuge. Nature took care of that, and this log fell down right here on Brad's property, and now you have a cool reservoir right here that again feeds those series of ponds and keeps this beautiful natural habitat. Tell you what, I love this type of environment, and it's just so cool to see that nature is just thriving in this area. It's beautiful. So guys, what we have here is an albino monocle cobra. These guys are absolutely gorgeous. And again, the thing that's neat about cobras is that defense that they have. They're gonna take that big hood like this, and they're gonna hood up. And that's what's gonna make them look larger and keep the predators away. Now, ironically enough, if you can keep eye contact with them, typically they're gonna stay hooded like this. And this is the area that you don't have to be as concerned about them biting. Believe it or not, when you're handling these guys, you don't want them to be unhooded, because that's when they're dangerous. Now, the albino monocle cobras have been being bred for probably about 15 years or so. Man, look at that thing, just threat posture like that. They're highly, highly intelligent. And again, you just gotta keep movement. Now, when you see these guys with the baskets and you see them with their flutes, everyone thinks that they're actually going to the music, but the truth is, it's all about movement. If you can keep that movement going, you're gonna have them come up and they're gonna do this threat display. What a gorgeous snake this is. At Brad's World, they work a lot with venomous snakes from an educational standpoint. The whole philosophy here is to show these beautiful animals and talk about conservation. This happens to be one of the most iconic of all the rattlesnakes. Of course, the eastern diamondback, and just listen to that sucker go. Of course, the rattlesnake is all about the little buttons on the end in that rattle. Now, these guys can get enormously large, sometimes 8 or 9 foot, and they're live-bearing pit vipers. They can have 15 to 20 babies. And I tell you what, this guy has quite a strike range, so you don't want to get too close, because even where I'm at now, you can see it's just those little pit heat sensors are picking me up right now. And if I get much closer, it's gonna strike out. And these guys can literally lunge sometimes 2/3 their body length. So I'm right outside of strike range right now. It may seem like I'm kind of far away, but trust me, if I just crept in just a little bit more, this thing is gonna come out and it may latch onto me. And that certainly isn't something you want. These guys have a terrible hemotoxin with tremendous amount of necrosis and pain when you get bit, and oftentimes you end up losing a limb or two. So trust me, I do not want to get bit by any diamondback rattlesnake. This is certainly one of my all-time favorite snakes. This is a black-headed python from Australia. Now, of course, that jet black head is why they're called a black-headed python, and one of their near cousins is certainly the Woma python. But the black-headed pythons get much larger, with their westerns being the largest variety and the easterns being a little bit smaller. But nevertheless, some of these guys can get 9 foot plus and about this big around. But one of the most common mistakes that hobbyists make when they get into black-headed pythons is overfeeding them. And then they have a very short lifespan and typically don't reproduce very well. Believe it or not, a black-headed python female typically needs to be about 5 years old to make sure that she's going to reproduce well. With blackheads, you definitely want that lean and mean animal in order to produce it. And this girl here, believe it or not, which has a great body weight, is starting to build eggs. That's right, you're starting to see some swelling in the back end. So she's about to be a mom and have a couple pups pretty soon. What an amazing animal. I tell you, black-headed pythons, I'll never get sick of holding these guys. Now this happens to be a real treat. This is a cottonmouth. Now what's interesting about cottonmouths is the way that they got their name is because they actually have an interesting threat display typically. They'll sit there and they'll just open their mouth really wide, and of course they have a completely white mouth, hence the name cottonmouth. Now it's kind of cool to see an animal in this environment because although we're in Oregon, this is pretty much exactly where they're going to be from, is in this swampy area, always kind of going to the water and spending a lot of time in there, but also they're going to be endemic to a large portion of east of the Mississippi, all the way up into Illinois and all the way down into Florida. Now I gotta say, this is by far the largest cottonmouth that I have ever seen, and she's actually been bred, so there's a good chance that she's gravid. But I tell you, although she's obviously very used to being around people because she has no threat display whatsoever, although this girl seems to be extremely acclimated to people, their toxins are pretty wicked. You don't want to get hit by something like this. I don't believe there's ever been a recorded death, but trust me, if something like this bites you, you're probably not going to have a good day or two because they have hemotoxin and it's going to hurt and there's going to be quite a bit of necrosis. Not as bad as rattlesnakes, but nevertheless, just look at that beastie right there. That is one absolutely huge cottonmouth. Oh my gosh, that is gorgeous. What a cool animal ambassador. Guys, this is really awesome. Earlier we ran around and flipped a bunch of tins and didn't basically find anything, but just now it's kind of that end of the light day, which means that animals are kind of coming out and trying to soak up the last sun of the day. And sure enough, as soon as I flipped this tin, we found two perfect gems here. Now this happens to be a little racer, which when these guys get bigger, they're pretty cantankerous. They love to bite and they're super quick, but when they're babies, they have that really cool pattern to them, which makes them really cool. And of course, this one here is probably one of my favorite garter snakes. It's the red spotted garter snake. And again, they're endemic to this part of the country and only this part of the country. My gosh, just look at how beautiful it is. It doesn't matter how many times you catch snakes, every time you flip a tin and find something like this, the adrenaline just goes through your head. And it doesn't matter if it's a venomous snake or a little racer, just like this guy that's taken a couple pops at my face. Wow, what an awesome find. As you guys know, catching snakes is absolutely just awesome and exhilarating, but I've always said that releasing them is actually more fun to me. Just to see them kind of go back into the wild is just so cool. So we're gonna let these guys go, and look at that, just that quick, just completely disappears into the hay. We'll put this guy down. And the one thing when you're out herping that's so important is to always put, whether it's a rock or a piece of tin like this, always put it back exactly the way you find it. You don't want to disturb it, but tell you what, let's go see what else we can find. We have another find here. This happens to be the common northwestern garter snake, or Thamnophis ornodes. But the thing that's really interesting about these guys is they come in about 25 different color phases. So these are extremely polymorphic. You can get yellows and oranges and even some red variety. And the locals here will call them red racers or orange racers or yellow racers. But this is basically what you're gonna find in this area. Again, another garter snake. But unlike the red spotted garter snake that is basically just one morph, this guy will have many morphs, but they're the exact same species. So again, let's let this little bugger go back under this tin and he'll live his life a good way that way. Oh, been a great night. And as promised, here's some home video shot by Brad Tillum of Steve Irwin in his early days at the Croc Hunter. Seeing as Terry Irwin's parents lived down the street, Steve and Terry would visit Brad often. Hope you guys enjoy it as much as I have.
She's a little bit blue. There she goes.
Have you seen one in a while, what?
Don't muck with it.
I love that. Never do this.
The other thing is, whatever you see me do tonight here at Brad's World, never try it. Because this is the pygmy rattlesnake.
So it's never been a secret that one of my kind of idols in life has been Steve Irwin. So to kind of be sitting exactly where Steve was several years back, visiting Brad because his wife Terry is from the area, and playing with this exact snake, a pygmy rattlesnake, is something really special to me. Of course, I've always loved pygmy rattlesnakes. They're endemic to South Florida and all through the Florida areas, and they're of course the smallest rattlesnake in the world. What's cool about it is they live next to the eastern diamondbacks, which are the largest rattlesnake in the world. But again, to me, what's really special about this is just to think that the guy that I've always admired so much because he just meant so much to wildlife around the world, sat here talking with my friend Brad, just like I've been doing all day.
And you thought cougars killed joggers? That's nothing on the pygmy rattler. We met some army boys down there on the bad side of Florida, mate. They attack their backpacks and kill the backpacks. They eat backpacks.
Although the animal is amazing and such a breathtaking animal, it's really the experience right now that has just kind of got me in awe. And quite frankly, I'm almost a little speechless, to be honest with you, just to think about it. So, but what a gorgeous animal, huh?
The cottonmouth, the water moccasins, and the copperheads rattle their tail too. They haven't got one. They haven't got a rattle. It's the weirdest thing.
It's the funniest
That is
thing.
weird. It's not like...
I've got this copperhead, holy shit, bite. Bang, I've got a little hook, I get, it's like, ah! And it's like, venom flying out. You're gonna make a run for a little lizard?
What's the...
Oh, you're a death adder! You're a death
They
adder!
do look like a death adder.
Don't they? Can I touch you there? Oh, maybe not. Come on then.
No, don't
No.
touch my bottom.
Come on then. Oh, you're coming up because you're a death adder.
Bet it's a girl.
I bet it is a girl.
Short, though.
Oh, now she's doing the sidewinder thing.
Don't
come on,
touch my bottom thing.
You have that
Then you know these mate with the sidewinders and you get crosses.
Yeah. Pink. And that little Groucho Marx
Sort of like
eyebrow.
taipans and carpet pythons, they do that
We're
too.
off to go to...
Okie dokie.
So guys, what an amazing time out here at Brad's World, tooling around nature, seeing such amazing animals. Oh my God, I could live every day of my life like this. But for now, I think I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy Mother Nature a while and get a little nap in. And as always, I was Facebooking, tweeting, and Instagramming my way through it. So make sure to follow me over at SnakeBytesTV and on Instagram at SnakeBytes.tv. Until next week, you've been watching Snake Bites.
Hi, I'm Peter Birch, an Aussie bloke who loves wildlife. My respect for nature started when I was a young boy in rural New South Wales. Since then, it's exploded into an obsession. New episodes only on AnimalBytesTV.